In this lesson, we're going to be reviewing how we multiply and divide terms in algebra. A few quick reminders to start with. A letter next to a number or another letter means they're being multiplied. So this is this 3mky, same as 3 times m times k times y. Also, when you see an index number, which is this one here, and this is called the base, it means the base is multiplied by itself this many times. So y to the power of 3 is the same as y times y times y. We also just want to remember that we can simplify fractions. So this 15 over 25, I can find what goes into 15 and what also goes into 25. And so 5 goes into both of those. So if I divide 15 here by 5, I get 3. And if I divide 25 by 5, I get 5. And that means that this fraction simplifies to 3 over 5. So let's get into the key points here. I'm going to start with this expression here, just timesing 3mk by 4y, and I'm going to start by actually expanding it out. Those times signs we don't normally write, I'm going to write those. And so 3 times m times k times 4 times y. Now it doesn't matter what order I multiply things in, so I could multiply the 3 by the 4 straight away. That gets me 12. And so I've got 12 times m times k times y. I can't do anything with the m, k, y because I don't know what value they represent. And so I'm just going to leave them as letters, and I'm just going to rewrite it now without the times signs. I'm also going to put the letters in alphabetical order because that's generally what we do. And so we multiply the numbers normally, and we just put the letters together in alphabetical order. Sometimes a letter is going to appear more than once, like in this question here. And so let's do our expansion again. Let's put our times signs in there. So 3 times m times k times 4 times m. Once again, we can times the 3 and the 4 together. And so that gets us 12. And then when we go to get rid of the times signs here, there's two m's. And the way we can show that is by putting a little squared there. Once again, put the letters in alphabetical order. So the k goes first, but then the m has that index number, the squared, up the top. So use our index numbers to show how many times the letter appeared in the multiplication. Let's take a look at dividing now, which is usually written as a fraction. And if it's not written as a fraction, it's best that you write it as a fraction when you're doing the question. So we've got 6ym divided by 10yk. And the way I'm going to do this is I'm going to separate it out with the times signs, but I'm also going to change the 6 into 3 times 2 and the 10 into 5 times 2. We'll see why in a moment. So if I write it out, it looks like that. Now, anything that's on the top undoes anything that's on the bottom. So if we've got a 2 up here, it undoes the 2 down there, and that means we can just cross them both out. They're not going to make any difference together because one undoes the work of the other one. And so same with the y. This y here undoes that one. They cancel each other out, and we cross it out. So we're left with 3 times m over 5 times k. Now I can just write it without my times signs, 3m over 5k. And once again, we're going to want to go straight from this down to the bottom. So let's get rid of that, and let's see how we can go straight from this down to here. So starting with our numbers here, let's just think of this as a normal fraction, 6 over 10. Remember, the way we simplify those, we look for what's the biggest thing that goes into 6 and also into 10, and that's 2. 2 goes into 6 and 10. So if I divide the 6 by 2, I get 3, and if I divide the 10 by 2, I get 5. And then if we look here, see I've got a y on the top and a y on the bottom there. Cross those out as well. I don't have an m on the bottom, so he has to stay there, and I don't have a k on the top, so he has to stay there as well. And so just looking here, I've already got my final answer there. All I have to do is rewrite it a bit neater down here. So 3m over 5k. Obviously, normally you'd write it directly underneath or even right next to it, since we're going straight to our final answer. So let's look at some examples here. We're going to start by simplifying 4a times 3m. So we start by multiplying the numbers together. That'll get 12, and we're just going to put the letters together, the a and the m together. So all together we get 12am, but we do our question equals the answer. We don't just write down just the answer, but it's fine to put it next to it because we're going straight to the final answer. In the next one, we're going to be doing 6m squared k times 7mp. Once again, we multiply the numbers together, get 42, and then we've got m squared here, so that means there's already two m's, and we've got another one there, so there's going to be three m's in the answer. And then finally we've got to get the k and the p, and of course we're going to put them all in alphabetical order as well. So 42 k m cubed and then the p. Moving on to a division example now, we have to simplify this expression here. So let's start by writing it down, and we'll do the numbers first. So what goes into 12 and 8? And the highest number that goes into 12 and 8 is 4. So divide the 12 by 4 and you get 3. Divide the 8 by 4 and you get 2. Now, is there anything I can cross out? I see there's an x on the top and an x on the bottom. They're gone. Now, there is a y on the top and a y on the bottom, but that would be a bit short-sighted. There's actually two y's on the top and only one on the bottom. So we are going to cross out one of the y's on top, and the way we can do that is just by getting rid of that 2. Now there's only one y up there. There was 2, now there's only 1, and that will cancel out or cross out the 1 on the bottom. The p, there's no p's on top, so the p is going to have to stay there. Now let's write down everything that's left. So there's a 3, it's crossed out, it's crossed out, it's crossed out. There's a y, and then a 2, lots of stuff crossed out, and then a p. So 3y over 2p. Now if we just have a quick look at this expression here, if I simplify this, when I do the numbers, 2 goes into 4 and it also goes into 2. So this is how I'd simplify those numbers, and of course I can cross out the m's as well. Notice there's nothing left down here except a 1. So when I write my answer, it'll be 2k over 1, but we don't write it with a 1 on the bottom, because the 1 on the bottom is not going to make any difference whatsoever, and so we'd actually just write that as 2k. You'd go straight from this to that. So if all you've got left on the bottom is a 1, or if you've managed to cross out everything on the bottom, then it's not a fraction anymore. You just write it as the single line. Let's try some practice questions then. Remember to pause the video. And there's the solutions. Each time, just question equals the answer, question equals the answer, although there's a fair bit of crossing out to show here, to show how you got that answer. So in the first one, I'd multiply the numbers together first. 3 times 7, that's where 21 came from. And then with this x here, there's no other x's at all, so I just put him in the answer. And with the y's, there's 2 lots of y there, and there's another one there, so my answer had 3 lots of y's. And then in the second one, I started by writing down the question, and I did the numbers first. 10 and 15, I noted that 5 goes into 10 and 15, and 5 goes into 10 twice, and it goes into 15 3 times. So that took care of the numbers. And then there was an x here on the bottom, and there were 2 x's on top. So I crossed out the 2, so there'd only be 1 x left, and I crossed out the x on the bottom. So basically I crossed out 1 x on top and 1 x on the bottom. The y I couldn't touch because there's no y's down there, and then I just cleaned it up, got rid of all the crossed out stuff, and that was my final answer. Here is some more practice questions if you need to have another shot. Remember to pause the video. And there's the solutions. Note that if you left this one as 4m squared over 1, it's not incorrect. It's still technically correct, but you just try and remember we don't bother writing ones just by themselves on the bottom of fractions. And that brings us to the end of the lesson.